tell, we are in the New Forest. We stayed in a place called Lyndhurst last night, and we went for a couple of drinks in a little pub called the New Forest Inn, and then we just stayed outside, parked up, stayed there overnight.
Tried to go for a drink, but I forgot my ID.
Yeah, Sam forgot his ID, so I had a drink and Sam had a Coke.
Yeah.
It was like taking my little brother to the pub. Yeah, so today we're driving to Brockenhurst. From Brockenhurst we're going to walk down Lymington River into Lymington and then back. I think it's quite a long walk. And then from there we're going to drive to Burley and have a little look around, because they are one of the only towns in the New Forest that still practice commoning, which I know sounds a bit dodgy, but it basically means they allow animals to roam freely through the village. So we've driven through there once, and as we drove through there was a post office and there was just a horse like waiting outside the post office waiting to get his letters. And then tonight we're having food in a pub called the Philly Inn. We had a little bit of a dilemma last night. So every time we locked the van when we were in it, after about 3-4 minutes the alarm would go off, which was very much fun at 11:30 at night.
Something I didn't think about, obviously.
No, but we worked it out. We've got our toilet. It's a good toilet. It's lovely. This video will also be in 2 parts. I will be doing part 2 of this video, but now over to Sam. He's going to tell you what part 1 is about.
Wow, transitions. So I'm just basically going over the window installation. I followed the Kiravan's video, which is also where we bought the window from, so I'll link that down below, and if you want to do it, that is the best thing to follow, rather than me, who's just describing this very loosely. But just in case anybody wanted to know, I thought I'd talk about it. First, as you can see from the clips below, I cut out the strut using a sanding disc but with a cutting disc on it. So then I had to cut a hole in each corner, and I first tried to do this with a hole cutter, but it wasn't rated for steel, so it didn't work very well. So then I went a little bit closer to the edge because the hole cutter was bigger, and then tried using a different tool, which I managed to break and burn quite well. There's supposed to be points at those little black spots, but I managed to cut a hole with it, so that worked, so that was fine. And then I did the other 4 holes with one with a hole cutter, the top one, and then the other 2 just with a drill. Then I went to the outside and used the jigsaw. I had a proper metal a proper metal blade, and when I came to the parts where the stringer was, I just had to make sure that I was actually going in the same line, because otherwise I would have broken the blade. So once the whole thing was almost removed, I just made sure that I was pulling it outwards just so it wouldn't fall, and then any excess bits that were left over, I then used the jigsaw again to cut those excess bits off. I tried using the cutting disc on just the outer skin to remove the excess bits, but I didn't find it as useful. I personally found the jigsaw just the best to use. Some people get a nibbler tool, which you can get an attachment for a drill. I didn't want to do this because I didn't want to buy a tool just for it. I wanted to use the tools that I had, and I also think it's just a lot easier to use the tools that you have rather than spending the money. Then, just to tidy up all the edges, I used the sanding disc to get a lot of it away, and then just because I'm better at using hand files, I used hand files just to get the basic shape, and I think I did an alright job. Yeah, it was pretty square, so I missed my own hands because I was looking at the camera. And then obviously because there was bare metal, I used the primer that came in the kit from Caravans to dress it all, just to make sure that it's not going to corrode. Then I made a border on the outside, which was where the primer was going to go on, and then the sealant on top. Just before I started any of this, I ran out of memory on my phone, so couldn't film the rest of this, so I'll just talk it through. I put the sealant on just using a normal sealant gun. The kit only came with one. It was enough, but you can always add more if you want to, so just make sure you get the same sealant, just so that they have the same curing time and everything. Then using the glass suckers, I put it on. You can see me looking very happy in this picture with it, and then held it in place and just made sure that it was a even line at the top. Then I removed the suckers and got my mate Rue to hold it on, and then I came on the inside and put the glass suckers on the inside, and then had a bungee cord and pulled it down here and attached it onto another part of the van just to keep it pulled through. And then I saw this on another video, and I put the heating on and closed all the doors, but closed them carefully, because if you close it too much, the pressure difference can push the window out. So yeah, left the heater on for about 20 minutes just to help it cure a little bit, and then left the bungee cord on for like 24 hours. Now we'll go back to our holiday in the New Forest, so back to Holly.
So on Friday the 27th of September, me and Sam travelled from here in Abingdon down to the New Forest, and we stayed the night in the New Forest Inn pub. So before we went, I did a little bit of research into certain pubs that allowed pit stops. So this is where they allow people in camper vans or caravans or big lorries to stay overnight in their car park, as long as you've gone in for a drink or a meal or both. And the New Forest Inn was one of these. So we drove there, we had a couple of drinks, and then we stayed overnight in the car park. So on Saturday the 28th, we drove from the New Forest Inn to a car park called Tilley Road, which was in Brockenhurst. And then from there we did a massive walk, and we walked all the way down from Brockenhurst down to the seaside town of Lymington. So here are a few clips of that.
Through our walk, the first bit, I didn't pick the car park very well, so we had to walk across along we had to walk along quite a few bits of road, but we've just managed to get on the bridle way. So we're now walking through a place called Roydon Woods, where it is illegal to pick any fungi. So we're going to keep walking along here to a place called Bouldra, and then at Bouldra we should meet Lymington River.
Watch out!
Watch out!
Ground!
Then from there we're just going to walk along the river down into Lymington. From Brockenhurst to Lymington. We're now just sat overlooking the boat harbour at Lymington. It probably took us about 2.5 hours. It was lovely, it was really nice. Some of it was in forest bits, some of it was on the road. So we're gonna be having some lunch, then we're gonna walk further down into the water, see what there is there, have a little stroll back through the town, and then get the train home and back to our home.
So we did in fact then have a little stroll through Lymington. It was really pretty, just a little seaside town, lots of shops. And then we hopped on the train and got the train back to Brockenhurst and walked back to the car park. And then from there we drove only about 4 minutes away to a pub called the Philly Inn, which was absolutely stunning. We had an amazing meal in there, and we had quite a few gins. And then again, this was a pub that allowed pit stops, so we stayed overnight. So we woke up the next morning and we went on a little journey, and that's where the next clip is.
Go on then, you speak. Where are we?
So we're in Burley.
I didn't actually know where we were. I wasn't just doing that for the video.
And we had some brunch, which was very nice.
Yes.
And we've been into a few shops. There's a lot of witchcraft.
There is a hell of a lot of witchcraft. We brought some fudge
Yes, we did, from Burley Fudge Shop.
for... for Nan and my parents and for ourselves.
Yeah, we brought some vegan chocolate fudge,
We're going to try.
which will be nice.
And then we didn't do that to our parents because they wouldn't appreciate that.
No. And now we're just walking
Up a driveway, it seems.
somewhere.
In the woods. Sorry, honey. I'm gonna block
And then we're gonna wander back to the van and drive to Bewley.
So when we got to Bewley, we parked in the Motor Museum car park, and then we walked down into the village. It was a really, really beautiful little village, but as it was a Sunday, not much was open, so we couldn't see that much. We went into a few little shops here and there, and then we found a really, really lovely allotment, which the people that own the allotment, they do it in a partnership with the school children. So the whole thing is created by the people who own it and the school children in a partnership together, and they had everything there that you could imagine, and it was just really, really pretty. And then from there we decided, because much wasn't open, that we would walk back to the van and go and explore some other places.
So,
very close to the camera.
So we have come to the end of our journey.
Yeah, we're done. It's not
Stop
sad.
looking at
It's been
people.
fun. It's 'cause they're not looking at us.
They are. We have come to the end of our weekend.
Yeah.
We drove to Bewley. We went around Bewley a little bit. As you saw from the last clip, we then drove to a place called I don't know how you say it.
If you can hear it, because it's very windy.
It was so windy. And we've just driven to a place now called
This bit begins with C. I don't know.
Cadderley Park or something. It
This
would be.
word. And now we're going to drive home.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to drive home because Holly doesn't drive. Well, she does.
I do drive, just not the van yet. But we've both got the morning off tomorrow, so we're going to sit in Sam's room and eat fish and chips tonight.
And watch a film.
Watch a film.
Thanks for watching.